Sandy Zeldes. Thanks for being here. It's so good to meet you.
So good to meet you too. I love what you're doing.
One of the things that I'm excited to talk to you about today is and I want to cover everything. I mean, it says here, so your official title that I have on your one sheet that your team sent to me was subconscious healing expert and certified nutrition consultant. So, healing, working with the subconscious, that's real big. Like I love reticular activating system, all that stuff. I kind of geek out on neuroscience in that way. And so you'll probably be able to teach me a lot there. Nutrition, I think food is medicine. I love to talk about
Great.
food and nutrition, but I also am real excited to learn about EFT tapping. That is something that, hey, are you familiar with Dawson Church and his work at all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That was my Bliss Brain was my first introduction into that modality for habit change and I guess for lack of a better word, meditation, that sort of thing. And so I'm really excited to. I've actually asked him on the show because part of his education, I thought, well, maybe he'll come on because he was educated at Baylor, which is just in Waco, where I was last week. And I was like, okay, he's got a Texas connection, but I haven't been able to get him on yet, but I would like to.
Interesting.
But you're going to be my EFT specialist that I've
Yeah.
never had anybody on to talk about this. And I've had the interest for so long. So I'm excited about that. So with that, I don't want to steer you in any one direction. I want you to just tell us how this path began for you toward subconscious healing, nutrition, health and wellness, and your coaching practice. Where does all of this stem from?
It's such a big question. And there's so many points of entry, right? That I could state. Like, if you look at my website, you'll see, or you look at my bio, it's 20 years of being a chef, um, 20 years in nutrition practice using EFT. They're overlapping. So I've got a long history of working with food, nutrition, functional medicine nutrition, and I call it ancestral nutrition, which we can talk about later. And I've written courses and, there's a long history there, but it really started, to be honest, with my passion for food and health and healing, which has been lifelong. I mean, there's pictures of me as a little girl, and I was just obsessed with my grandma's cooking, and there's stories about that. It used to be on my website, may even still be on my old chef site. And, I've just always loved bringing people together around food. I think it's obviously a very beautiful healing experience and fun, and pleasurable, right? And so, and later in life, when I was after I graduated high school and went on to college, I started to develop, um, I would call it an obsession with food and trying to get it right. Working with different diets, different approaches. Gosh, I did it all. It was a long time ago now, a very long time ago, and the trends then were different than they are now, so it was all vegan and raw was what I was passionate about back then. I wanted to save the planet, I just was very into organic, farm to table, we called it. Alice Waters pioneered that movement, and so I was very passionate about food and nutrition. And what happened was even with all that knowledge, years of deep knowledge, not just cursory knowledge, but education, studying, even teaching cooking classes. There used to be cooking classes at Whole Foods. It's a shame they gave that up. Sur La Table early on. And I was teaching and learning and studying and struggling, right? With just what my clients struggle with today is everything about nutrition and food, or, you think you do, and you've studied a lot and you've tried everything, and then you're still hungry. You're still hungry, right? And so that's where it got interesting. After college, it was after my chef career kind of was in a different phase. I went back to school to study holistic nutrition, and it was a 2-year program. It wasn't, there's a lot of online courses now. This was a deep dive. And, and I'm very thankful for my teachers because the teachers that I had there introduced me to basically what I call ancestral nutrition, which is a very different approach than I'd ever heard about, ever knew about, ever understood. And it changed my life. It was my first shift. was understanding, aha, there is an answer to this question. There is an answer to what to eat, right? And yes, it's individualized. We're all unique. I will never have a one size fits all approach. And yet there's answers. In that world, there is answers to what to eat. So that was my first shift. And then shortly after, it was right about that time. I'm just trying to, it was all kind of at the same time I was studying EFT. Um, and it's so long ago now that I wish I could tell you the moment. There were several moments because I'd been working with EFT, but just dabbling. And back then it was Gary Craig. Gary Craig is the founder, and he handed it over to Dawson Church later. But I studied under Gary Craig, who I adore, and because it was that long ago, and I started having these miraculous shifts. And one of the biggest ones, of course, was I stopped obsessing about food for the first time. And it had been such a struggle up to that point that I couldn't believe it would ever happen. And of course, it happens for my clients every day. It's totally doable, but we have to shoot the arrow at the right target, is kind of what I call it.
Right.
So we're not shooting it at the right target typically. And that was an aha. And then I wrote a book and a course and just became very passionate specifically about women. I work with men too. I love working with men, but specifically women came to me with their problems with food. And that's how it all began, in a nutshell.
So will you tell me, let's just unpack that a little bit. First of all, EFT, I mentioned earlier that Dawson Church was that introduced me to that. I don't even remember why I bought Bliss Brain. Someone must have talked about it that recommended it. I don't know why. But, I've never done it as an actual practice. I'm always trying to understand better how to leverage neurochemistry and tap into, more of a displacement of the conscious and kinda look in, and, like, I got into meditation as a way to calm my brain, and I've seen, great, success with that, and then I definitely wanna go into the ancestral nutrition because to me, what you're talking about that's right in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. I
Yeah.
love and you're
Yeah.
because it kinda feeds into that whole idea of food as medicine. So I definitely do not let me babble on and get us distracted and not touch on ancestral nutrition because I think it's so important. But let's start with EFT. Give this audience just kind of a baseline, go as deep and narrow as you want to with what it is, what's going on neurologically, what's going on in the body with the central nervous system, what's happening with the tapping. I mean, the audience may hear that, and then they may like, "What does that mean? Tapping on a desk, tapping on your temple? Why does tapping in different areas matter?" Kinda just give us like a, EFT 101, if you will.
Yeah. So the synopsis, it was actually a psychotherapist who discovered it kind of by accident. He was desperate to solve a client's problems with a phobia. I mean, you can kind of read about it. And so he just started tapping on their meridian points. They're actually mapped out meridian points, and there's specific ones we use. There's many you can use, but there's a basic recipe that we use in EFT um, to address all the different endpoints of the meridian system. In short, and so he tapped on one, and he hit pay dirt basically, and the woman's phobia was cured. So that started him on a process. Um, and then Gary Craig later, this was, forgive me, I don't know the year. It was a long time ago. I was 20, I think it was over 30 years ago that I first was
Okay.
using EFT. 30, it was a long time ago, 35 years ago. Um, and so Gary Craig at some point had taken it over at that point. It was long ago and was teaching. He was just teaching and created his own version that is what we know as EFT today. You'll see offshoots, different people doing different things. And Dawson has his take as well, which he does a great job. You'll hear him when he talks about bliss brain. He's using different techniques as well combined. But the basic recipe we use is what we call EFT today. So I hope
Okay.
that gives you a quick synopsis.
And what does EFT stand for?
Emotional freedom techniques, and that's
Okay.
exactly what it is. It's
Okay.
exactly what it is. So, an example, it really works, and the studies show this. You can see this on my website. We have an article with one specific scientific study, but there's other studies about the nervous system response and cortisol, especially, that are scientific studies. But there's a lot of studies in the works, on just how profound it is on the nervous system response. But you can try it and see, right? So people get results right away, and sometimes they're not even aware of how free they feel until later because they notice, oh, I'm not having a reaction to something. A classic example is something that, would trigger someone in the past no longer triggers them. And they don't even notice that after a session until they're in a situation and they report back, I was at a party and all the desserts were out, and that used to be the main thing I would go for. And this used to be me as well. This is a long time ago. And I don't even want them. And I watch everybody make a beeline, and all the women are skipping dinner so they can go straight for dessert because they just want the dessert and they can't wait and are so excited. And I think it tastes terrible, right? Or my clients will tell me I didn't even want it, right? That's the power of when you clear. It's stress. It's the emotional stress, that we're carrying, and we don't even know we're carrying it. That's the trick.
Okay, let's talk about that tactically because I think that's a huge. I think that's anyone listening to this. It might not be desserts, but it's something that they probably
Oh,
struggle
it's not
with,
just food.
right?
The glass
Yeah,
of wine.
there's those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tactically, let's say that person that has always struggled with the sweet tooth, they go to the party, and I mean, and I used to be that guy. I don't know what I think just because I just kind of changed my lifestyle, but I really used to be that guy that if you go to an office party or in the morning, you go to get your oil changed and the place has donuts. There's something about you say, I've got to eat these free donuts. I
Right.
mean, I love them. They're
Right.
free. I've got to, and it goes back to what we'll probably cover is ancestrally speaking we're geared towards if there's food available, our body's natural instinct is you must eat it because
Ancestrally, right, and
right?
that's what I kinda disagree with, actually.
Oh,
So,
really? Talk to
I
me.
kinda disagree with that based on experience now.
Okay.
Based on experience, based on 20 years of working with people and seeing what's going on. Actually, we had I mean, we're always guessing. I studied anthropology at UC Berkeley, and look, interpretation could change, okay, with history or prehistory and hunter-gatherers, but actually there were long periods of hunger. So we're
Mhm.
actually pretty good at being satiated. It's what we're eating and how we're feeling. That's actually
Okay.
more important. In my experience, just working with people and seeing how, um, it's not the food, it's not the environment, it's us. Um, I get I personally get kind of disgusted by sweets now, especially if I've been eating well. Look, I have periods where I have stress happen that and I don't eat right for it takes about a week for me to be off. Traveling, you're not eating right or whatever. Yes, you're gonna have cravings because it's physiological if you're doing something like that. But I eat pretty stable. And so my blood sugar's stable and my emotional state doesn't affect it anymore. So if you want me to back up, did I answer the original question?
No, we need to go back to the
Yeah.
EFT from a
Yeah.
tactical standpoint, and basically, we are in agreement on that in that I think that um,
Nourished.
whenever you're getting the proper nutrition,
Yeah.
yeah, cravings go away when your body's having what it needs, right? And
Absolutely.
also, like, one of the things I learned from a physician business partner and friend of mine was that a lot of times when people feel hungry, the hunger pangs, it's not necessarily an energy deficit. It certainly can be, but a lot of times it's a nutritional deficit that the body
Absolutely.
is just saying, "Hey, you're hungry because you need fill in the
Exactly.
blank, iron." Right? So we may
Absolutely.
disagree later on, but we're pretty much on the same page there. So we're good. All
Yeah.
right, now with the EFT making people or as a modality to get to the point where you can overcome that just craving. You go to the oil change place, you got to have the donuts. You go to the party, you got to eat the sweets. To just being like, yeah, doesn't move me. How long does that take? on average, is there an average? What does the practice look like to get to that point, and can anyone do it?
I think anyone can do it. Do they wanna do it? Right? We all have
Okay.
choice. Some people,
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation kind of, we all get to choose, right? So, sometimes we don't wanna deal with it. Sometimes we're like, "I'm not gonna address this." And that's okay. But for the people who wanna dive deep, which is really what I do the deeper work, and the people who work with me tend to know that there's something else going on. It's not a quick fix because they've been struggling a long time. So I'm talking about a certain segment of the population. Um, the cravings are actually the easy part. It can take, look, you're going to hear about people clearing cravings right away, and you can feel better after one session. Obviously, everyone has clearing happen, things happen in each session or each EFT exercise that we do. But so Gary describes it best, I think, even after all this time. He used to describe an issue as a tabletop. So let's call cravings a tabletop of a table, and then there's legs, and how many legs are holding it up, right? And most people aren't aware that it's the tip of an iceberg, a pretty big iceberg of, you know, big T traumas, little T traumas, stress, belief systems from their childhoods, and
Mhm.
that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where we get profound results, for, my clients who are really high functioning, professionals, but who are struggling with a lot of anxiety and health symptoms, right? So this is where it gets really interesting, is when we remove those table legs, yes, then the cravings are gone. And they don't come back. They shouldn't come back if we've done our job correctly. And that's a team effort, with people. And, a practitioner who knows how to clear effectively using EFT. So it's a simple tool, but there's a lot of complexity with making sure you've addressed the issue. Does that make sense?
So, I think so. Um, so if I come to you and we're going through our first session, and I tell you I wanna quit smoking, I have a sexual addiction, I have a food addiction, and I'm saying addictions. I mean, I'm sure there's other issues that could be solved, but addiction's just easy for people to kind of
Yeah.
process, I think. So
Right.
the reason why
Right.
it's not like you only do EFT because you have some sort of an addiction you're trying to overcome. Um, does that start with, like, kind of a personal inventory of just you getting to know the person, and are you as a professional practitioner, are you trying to find the root cause of the craving that has led to an addiction, that there's something else, there's something at the root of this person, you're trying to dig to find that, and
Absolutely.
once you find
Absolutely.
that, does that then determine where the tapping is and
Exactly.
happens? And okay, so kinda walk me through that. Like, I walk into your door and I say, "Sandy, I can't put down my cigarettes. I smoke a pack a day. I know it's bad for me. Let's talk." What do we do then? What kinda how what's the methodology from there?
Right. Well, that's a good question. So you're asking what I specifically do, not so, EFT practitioner.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
I
be
use
generalized,
EFT
but let's just keep it
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
just
And it's a
yeah.
tool. And, obviously, when you're in practice long enough and you work with individuals, you develop. I started out with like, you should see how it started out. It was so, I feel like I made it complicated. I had a membership and all the things they could look at. Nobody wanted it. They just wanted it. They want to feel good. They don't want to read a book.
Yeah.
So I stopped and like, I still have some clients who want that stuff, but like, I'm like, less is more. We're already stressed out and overwhelmed to the hilt. Some of my clients can barely find the time, right, to fit it in. And so I simplify the process, is what I feel like. I try to remove complexity. Complexity is not how we heal. Healing should be simple, in my opinion. Doesn't mean it's not hard for someone at times, but
Mhm.
the process should be simplified. And so I do a full intake, for each client. Everyone's an individual. I don't have a specific place I start anymore. I used to start with all the functional medicine tests and, questionnaires, and I can do that. We can do that. And I get, but it's an art, not a science after a while, and I know what I'm hearing. I listen really well, and I can hear what's going on. And so, if it's hormonal imbalance, if there's neurotransmitters, like the brain chemistry, um, which by the way, I used to think was causal, and now I think emotional stress is much stronger. Um, because even
Talk
when
a little bit about that, because I wanna know more about that.
it's fascinating actually. So our emotions are that powerful. So in experience, from experience working with people, I'm not saying this from textbook, even though you could read the studies on that. Our emotional stress is so profound. That's why addiction is so necessary. We're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to heal ourselves. And we hate ourselves for it. And the shame is a secondary issue from our coping mechanisms, right? And so, but the real answer is, hey, this is a tip of an iceberg issue with any kind of addictive anxiety, stress, and usually what's under the surface is really what we need to work on. And so I end up doing 90% is the emotional release work, emotional healing work um, from unconscious, buried stuff we wouldn't even remember. You don't even think it's an issue. I even had something like that recently come up that I was like, I never thought about that. And then I worked on
Yeah,
it, cleared it. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that it had so much around it still? And,
yeah,
it's how we work. We store our trauma to protect ourselves, just like fat cells will protect us from toxins, right? Heavy metals and things like that. So, it's always protection. Um, and your body is trying to heal you. That's the answer. The body wants to heal us. It's a magnificent creation. So,
alright. So you've mentioned several times, and I just wanna know from a more, getting a definition of terms, clearing. What
yeah,
does it
sorry.
mean to clear an emotion, clear? Because I think that seems to be, and I think I get it, but I don't wanna miss it, 'cause that's obviously incredibly important. So, what does it mean to clear?
It's a good question. Sorry about that. I'm being a little
Yeah.
bit more. Um,
No, you make me look good, because it gives me a good question to ask, and I need all the help I can get,
no,
Sandy, so
uh, yeah, no, I think, yeah, it's kind of confusing if someone hasn't done EFT or doesn't know what it is. It is kind of a strange phenomenon, I can just tell you from experience over 20 years that, and what the studies show, the feeling of your cortisol going down is relaxation, okay, and calming and soothing, and you can breathe deeper, right? We don't, we hold our breath when we're stressed and anxious. We don't know we're doing it. So, we can kind of relax, be in our bodies and feel what we're feeling and actually let it go. So to me, emotions should be like water, right? They should just flow. We're not supposed to store them and hang on to them and bury them. And so we have to numb out to them later in life and cope. Um, they get stored. That's the secret that people don't realize. You didn't go away just because you kind of hid it, stuffed it, numbed it, comforted it, soothed it with any substance or addictive habit. Overwork, overexercise. That's a big one.
yeah.
Any of our things we do to kind of keep ourselves from feeling something. And so the clearing is when we do the work, which takes us however long it takes. Everyone's different um, with their own process. Um, you just feel peace instead of the anxiety. It's an absence of something instead of. So, like I said, the result of that is you're at a party and you don't have the trigger, or you're around family members that you used to be like, and you don't feel anything. You're just fine. So I'll tell you a story. Stories illustrate it better. So I was working with a woman um, who'd had a pretty serious abuse incident. And it's not always abuse, by the way, but of course I work with that, right? So Um, but, the fallacy is that it's 100%. And, it's probably half of the people I work with have some pretty significant issues from the past, but it's not always the case. So, anyway, she had had an incident and it had changed her life. And she also had other things that from her past, from her childhood, that were pretty significant traumas. And so after the abuse incident, it combined. It created complex PTSD, basically, in short. We don't need to give it a label, but it completely stopped her life at that point. So, what was once functional, her life was once functional with trauma, still having issues after the abuse, it just all stopped. So she was hiding out, not exercising, overeating, gaining weight, doing all the things, right? Being very depressed, not being able to stop drinking, which was new for her. I mean, she used to be able to control it, but she was always a drinker. After just working with me, I think it was a month in. It was really fast. And she was a different person. Even her voice on the phone changed. I didn't even recognize her at a certain point. She was so vibrant and happy and extroverted as opposed to sounding really shy and timid and not wanting to speak up. Then she got very extroverted. She went back to exercising. She had no cravings. I mean, it wasn't even an issue. It's like, what I used to eat. What do you mean? Like, and then she is the one I think of all the time that went back to her family where she used to sit in her room, she said, and drink at family events, which was very sad for her. She was terrified. And she didn't, she, I remember the session where she said, "You're not going to believe this. I didn't drink and I wanted to be social." And so that's what clearing looks like. And no, it doesn't come back
Right.
because it's not a one hit wonder. We're going deep, at least when you do it right. When you work with a
Yeah.
practitioner who actually has experience with getting to the root, it's not always
Mhm.
perfect. There could be many table legs, right? Which most people have. But that particular, we call it incident. So the events that we cleared the charge around, the trauma, basically, that was stored in our bodies. Animals do this too, by the way. I work with animals and I love that work. Clearing their trauma. And yes, you can, because they are the same energetic beings as us, interestingly, without words.
Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I do it with horses, dogs, and cats. So
Wow.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so it proves to me, without studies, although we have studies to show it, that we are energetic beings. There's some kind of field in us that seems to be mapped out by this meridian system that is real because we can use these points um, if we want to, if we are intention, some people's intention is to avoid healing. And we can talk about that. The subconscious need to block change, um, which is one of the things that happens sometimes. But anyway, but if we work with that and we get clear and we work with what we call in the EFT world, the reversals and the subconscious blocks, um, we do get emotional freedom from different past events. And that's what's actually the secret thing that holds us back or is creating addiction. It's a clinical word. I try not to use it, but it is addictive habits, addictive behaviors, and basically unhappiness. So
Mhm.
most of my clients are very successful. I mean, th- I've worked with people who are at the top of their game. And, I often don't want to know who they are because I just don't, I want to treat them just like they're anyone else I work with,
Right. Right.
and they're
Right.
used to being in charge and directing, and I have to, let me lead here, let me help you to work this through. And they're used to being so high achieving and really using all their drive and willpower, basically just force, to achieve, and it stresses them out. And there's another way to achieve and, without burnout, basically, is kind of what I do. And
Yeah.
is more, and then they achieve more, the ones who take it all the way. I had someone who was a CEO. of a big tech company who had one of the most beautiful transformations. I mean, they all do. I mean, I can name so many, but hers was really interesting because she loved her career and she wasn't trying to change anything. She didn't even know. She only called me about weight, and they all, everyone calls me about weight, and it ends up being about everything. Um, but we resolved the issues around the cravings and the weight pretty quick, and but her relationships changed. She got into she wasn't even looking for it, and someone just fell in her lap who was, like, the love of her life, um, and she later decided she was gonna change her whole how she went to work, how she did things so she had more free time. She never thought about that before, but it suddenly she had an epiphany that she didn't wanna work so much, she wanted to go on vacation more and spend more time with her kids, and, again, it wasn't her goal. She liked being busy before. But it was this inner shift. That's how it happens. Where because she was becoming healthier, I think. I think this is a sign of emotional health, wanting to take care of herself, wanting to take care of her kids more, wanting to be home more. That was what it looked like for her. And she she overnight, she basically pitched this idea. They said yes. I mean, it always works like this with my clients who are trying to shift their careers. It happens very fast. And she said, this is her take. I'm not saying everyone needs to do this. She said, I wanted to go to work in my pajamas if I wanted to, or my sweatpants, or I just wanted to do whatever. Yeah. And she did. And she created this whole thing. Her whole lifestyle changed. And she was making more
Wow.
money doing it and she was more productive. That's the beauty of the inner transformation, is what happens from there is really miraculous.
One of the things that it sounds like you're tapping into is I've studied, not, I wouldn't say I've studied a lot, but I've read a lot of the work of Carl Jung and, the shadow self. And then this whole concept of kind of the matrix and expectations and a lot of our fears, I think, like it sounds to me like what your client found was some authenticity and
Yeah,
just
that's right.
gave herself the freedom. And I don't want to sound too like I'm no expert at all. They just this is just the podcaster kind of who is interested in this stuff, processing it. She was able to you helped her gain the courage to face who she really is and to let that out. That I can this is what I and sometimes I found in my own life, Sandy, it's really hard just to articulate this is what I really want from me and who I really am versus family, society's expectations that, by the way, based on my actions, I've contributed to those expectations to
Right.
because I don't want you to know that I really don't want to be this person that you see as successful and comes with all the positive reinforcement. I really just want to be this person. It sounds like kind of what you did with that client is allowed her to find a sense of to give her the courage or the peace, maybe, I like that word better, the peace to be her authentic self and then pursue that versus kind of doing what the matrix almost expects of us. Am I kinda getting some of that
Well,
right?
yeah, we're describing the end result. So I think the transformation that comes out of doing this work that's people come in for this tip of the iceberg that they see,
Mhm.
cravings, addiction, but there's all this stuff that ends up that's in the way, basically.
Yeah.
And we end
Yeah.
up when we let it go, I mean, I literally see it as a letting go process of everything that's in the way of you becoming whatever you wanna whatever it is that since I don't do
Mhm.
it, it's not me. These people are so creative, so smart, they don't need me to I would mess it up. Our brains don't know. It's inside of us. I think it's God given. I really do. And
Mhm.
I think we're born with it. And we're born with our gifts. We're born with yeah, there's a divine direction there, and we just get out of the way of it, and
I could not agree more. It's so funny. I'm a big believer in divine appointments too. I think people come into our lives at just the right time, and literally today, Sandy, I was on a walk, and the last 2 days, and whenever I'm walking, I'm praying, "God, please let me exercise and let me exhibit my divine DNA that I know is there. I know it's there. And I think that that's something that a lot of people sell themselves short on. It's just the we are remarkable
Remark
machines. The human machine is a remarkable and to your point, a divine thing. And and that's it's interesting you say that because that's one of the things I've really tried to work on lately. And a lot of it has to do with some of the stuff we're talking about. I don't think I've done that because of focusing on things that my mortal mind thinks are important and puts priority on versus just releasing and stop and say and just chilling out and saying, okay, just kind of walk into the desires of your heart that you know, are there for a reason, at least explore them. So I don't know. That really resonates with me.
well, and I think it's letting go and surrendering to the
Mhm.
divine
Which is so hard,
inspiration. I
especially
know,
for some of the people you're talking about, like, that you
especially
work
because
with.
we're
If
all
you're a
so intellectual, right? And our heads
mhm,
wanna lead, and then we get stressed out and overwhelmed, and then but the anyway, I think we use it as a crutch in our
yeah,
society, and it's
yeah,
our we grow up with it, it's fine, we're all taught that way, that's fine. I was super left-brained and, yeah, I was gonna be a professor and all this stuff, and I'm still very left-brained, like, but, um, surrender, allowing the divine to work through us, because that's the highest version of our lives.
sure.
If we let go, we can do so much more. We don't even know what's possible half the time, I
Yeah,
think. I don't goal set.
yeah,
Like, I don't like to goal set. People always ask me, "Well, what are you gonna do about this?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, don't ruin it." Like, let's not ruin it. Like, I
mhm,
can't whatever the highest outcome is gonna be, it's gonna happen if I let go and I practice and I create the terrain for it, the soil, the rich soil for it, meaning whatever that means to me at the given time, right? Taking really good care of myself, getting good sleep, letting go, doing my practices that I have to do. We all have to, right?
yeah,
I let go of my morning ritual and now my nighttime ritual. I used to do morning and night. It's terrible not doing the nighttime ritual. Just gonna say, I used to do a nighttime ritual. I'm gonna start again. Um, where you just even 5 minutes with some practice, whatever works for people, that helps you to just let go. Um, and allow inspiration from I use the word God, God,
mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
allowing, that to take over. Um, it's profound, it's a profound shift, and it's hard. It can be hard.
Oh, for sure. That whole word surrender scares the crap out of a lot of people. It scares me. We're not made. Yeah, it's just it's not a natural thing. All right, so I want to, and I may ask this in the wrong way. I hope that you can help me kind of navigate the best way to ask the question. This is going to sound so ignorant, but I am ignorant to a lot of this. When it comes to the meridian points, when it comes to the tapping, how do you match the we get below the iceberg, we start to see some childhood trauma, some relational trauma, whatever the case is, whatever has brought this person, they came in thinking I'm overweight. I want to lose some weight. And by the way, what we're talking about today, I think the audience, I want to say this. This is why so many people never keep the weight off, they go back to smoking,
Yeah.
they go back to drinking is because they just found a quick fix band-aid as
Yes.
opposed to digging
Yes.
beneath, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
when you had that person come in and talk about some of the meridian points and what the difference is in each point, and like
Oh,
when would I tap one versus another? I mean,
I
did
mean,
I ask that right? Does that make sense?
well, you don't have to know all that to work with a practitioner. You don't have to know anything.
Okay,
I mean, like, you don't have to know like the science. I think we guide you. Someone will guide you,
got it.
and it's better to just experience it. I feel, but they're mapped out meridian points. All of us develop our own intuitive way of working with people. Frankly, it's healing work. I mean, let's face it, and it's energetic and most people will tell you they're very intuitive after a long time. So when I'm working with someone, I'm working with that person. So there's no one
Yeah.
way to do it. But there's the basic sequence, as I said before. They're on the face and the hand. Very, very simple. And it's really a simple process. You just tap on meridian points, the specific meridian points that we use every time. I add a few every now and then. that I have found are very powerful. There's trauma points I like, that I've shown people. Trauma points, severe, like anaphylactic shock, believe it or not. I have a whole emergency medicine kit around, the meridian points. Believe it or not,
Oh, wow.
it works. Yeah, it's powerful. It's God-given. I mean, there's just no way
Mhm.
around it. So, even Gary Craig used to talk about that. Um, and so, such a powerful healing tool. And so, each session is the same with the points. It's not complicated. And then, I guide people through the process based on what they know they want to work on. It's not about me.
Right.
I'm just kind of seeing the bigger picture that I know they want to achieve. They've told me what they want to achieve. And so I do my best to guide them through. But
Okay.
everybody's an individual. Yeah, there's no one way I do it. Some people need to go really slow, but you never really. Okay, so one thing that needs to be said though about trauma, it's not always trauma, by the way. It's emotional stress, anxieties, things that have just lots of life events. People have losses, they have relationship, stress, lots of things that can come up. So when I say trauma, I'm not talking about everything is trauma based. But when it is, people should know that the nice thing about tapping is that we're not meant to relive our traumas and it can re-traumatize you, right? It's very unhelpful to um to have to relive them repeatedly. What you want to do is clear them gently. Work on them gently so that they are resolved, if that makes sense. The emotional stress behind the trauma is resolved. This is why
And is the real quick, Sandy, is the tapping, for lack of a better word, is it a distraction? Is it a comfort mechanism to
it
here's the way my
sounds
mind
weird, right?
works.
It sounds weird that it works.
Well,
So
it does, but I get it because here's the thing.
it
Here's the
sounds
way
so weird.
everything's metaphor and illustration in my brain
Right.
to help me understand. I'm thinking of Dorothy going to in facing the Wizard of Oz, and she sees the curtain, and the tapping is almost like kind of like a, it's okay, you're walking slowly. Otherwise, she might like focus on the curtain or focus on the wizard, freak out and run. But then eventually, if you can tap long enough and you're kind of calm long enough to get to the curtain that behind it lies the wizard, you realize it's just this helpless little old man. It's not nearly as bad. And boom, it's done forever. That big monster that was on the screen, you realize was nothing but kind of it was in your brain. It was that monster was a representation of a trauma or something that happened to you. But really, you can now open the curtain, the little man goes away. But the tapping is almost, this is again, I may be so far off base, but the tapping is almost like something to, it's like a little gentle nudge to keep you going to where you can open the curtain and release whatever it's holding you back.
I don't think that's what it is. I would say no.
Okay.
It's not a
Okay.
distraction. I mean, because even
Okay.
people will say that's what it is. Actually, even the studies show this. What we're actually doing is releasing the emotional energy. It's
Okay.
literally stored in our bodies, and
Okay.
we have an energy field, which people, I mean, there you can measure some of that. You can measure the energy around the heart field, for example. Heart Math Institute is doing amazing things. There's so much we really don't know that, yes, is scientifically being studied and is real. It sounds very woo woo, but I can tell you from experience, it's real. It's
Mhm.
real, like you and I right now, we're having, there's an energetic connection, even though we're at a
Mhm.
distance. Horses will show you this, that they can feel you from a
Mhm.
distance. And we do really fun work with that. That's something I was going to do before the pandemic, bring clients to the horses and for that work, not for healing with horses on the horse, but to do that work where you can measure and see your own, um, how you're affecting the animal, how they mirror you. They're gonna mirror you and show you, what's going on, and people just it's profound work. So there is an energy field. There is communication happening in that energy field, and, when we tap on meridian points, we can release, literally let go of. So we call it, we use a SUDS level, right?
Mhm.
From 1 to 10, you can measure yourself. What's the charge on, you know, that particular event? Like, my husband comes home and he doesn't, yeah, I'm so irritated and frustrated. He just throws his stuff everywhere and I just cleaned, right?
Mhm.
What's the charge on that? And it's like a 10 plus, and we're tapping,
Yeah.
and if we're on target with what's the real issue underneath that, which is never the issue itself, usually that's the secret. But if we're working through what's really going on, which is feeling unappreciated or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? But why does she feel unappreciated? She doesn't communicate. Okay. What, I mean, I'm just thinking of one client. Why?
Mhm.
And this is a pattern too. And why doesn't she communicate? Because she was raised where nobody communicated. So you see how it leads? And so is it really about her husband? And no. And this is why I love what I do, because I get to see relationships heal because they're doing this deeper process. It's not about
Mhm.
the toilet seat or the trash or, he's not helping me. It's like, well, you're not letting him help you. But why?
Mhm.
Why do you feel
Right.
to do it all? Why? And that
Yeah.
stems from stuff from childhood, always. Always. And so it takes people months, to work through all but it's the most profound work you can do because you just healed your relationship with your partner. And 20 years of
Yeah.
therapy won't do that. Like, you can't talk about this stuff because it's not about your mind. It's about what's going on deeper. It's not a behavioral change. He changed.
Yeah.
He was willing to do it. He was like, fine, we'll do this and that. We'll put a rack up and you can do this. And I mean, it was just she had to work through her stuff about it, right?
So, all right, I'm gonna
So
try
it's
again with
on
another.
gradient points actually helps us to peel away layers of our own belief structures and emotional
Yeah.
stress. That's literally what it does. It's just
Yeah.
easy to consider that that happens, but it does.
So it's like, and this is gonna sound so gross, but it's almost like lancing a boil. It's like
Yeah.
there's this stored
It's
energy,
stored
and
energy.
you're
Yeah. It's like a
and
bubble
you're
coming to the surface of the water and it pops and then it's done. It's gone.
there we go. Okay, good.
But there's
See,
a lot of
I do
moving parts, right? So now
yeah.
the client I'm thinking of, communication was the much bigger issue
Mhm.
in her life. Like,
Mhm.
big, like, it was her family story and she worked with her family. And so that became a much longer, that was a beautiful process to work with, to help her feel confident, being able to express what she wanted to express, how she wanted to express it, why it was important. Yeah, that's the real stuff, and feeling confident.
Right,
And so that came down to feeling worthy. Am I
right.
worthy of speaking up? And of course, so we worked on all those issues. So that's why I say the tip of the iceberg may be what we think is going on, but there's so much more. And it's gold. It's gold
Yeah.
when we work through that stuff. All of us, for anybody who does it.
So that's gonna make for a
Um,
perfect
Now
segue because
animals are
here's the
fast,
thing
I
that
will say.
as I listen to
Animals
this,
don't.
and it's
Sorry.
huh?
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that so much of this just kinda ties into you mentioned earlier, some of it sounds woo-woo. We talked about functional work, and it's like functional medicine and everything. There are so many tools we have at our
So
disposal
many.
within our own being that if we and that's one of the things over the past, I'd say 5 years that has led to me doing this podcast and just exploring the things that I explore now is if we have so much more agency than we give ourselves credit for. It goes back to that divine thing we were talking about. It just and so what you're saying to me, what I'm hearing is like we're tapping into the way this being that we have was designed and figuring out how to get rid of stuff without living a life of anxiety and this sort of thing. It can all be fixed, which leads us into I told you I'm so proud of myself for getting back to this, the ancestral nutrition,
So
because
the
I think
fun
that's
part.
huge.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that.
So I used to start 20 years ago. Well, more like 16 years ago, 17, a while ago now, with, the nutrition. Hey, let's
Mhm.
do this and that. Yeah, you're gonna be feeling so good. And people are like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it, you know? And you're like,
Yeah.
but you can do it. And anyway, so I realized, no. So tapping was part of things. And then it became all of it. And then once we clear its resistance, it's serving us, our addictions are serving us, and our belief systems, our beliefs about food and our bodies and our lives, our habits. And once we can work on that, oh my goodness, then we plug in that little bit of hormone repair that's individual, the
Mhm.
brain chemistry repair, which is individual and super powerful when you can plug it in, and basic ancestral nutrition and maybe some functional medicine tests if they need it. I love baseline tests. I'm a big fan. I think we should all have baseline tests. Just know your patterns. Some of us have blood sugar patterns. Some of us have iron issues that no one ever detects because no one ever looks for it, especially in women. And men, it can be taking iron by accident. They didn't know, and you guys store iron.
Mhm.
Anyway, so baseline tests are profound. Not necessary, but if people don't want to do them, and then that stuff becomes just a 10-minute conversation. I mean, it's just such a quick conversation at that point. And then it's just experimental and intuitive after that, right? So knowing what your body needs. Can I give
Yeah.
a story about that? Can I give one?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
I have so many stories. So I had a woman, oh, I love her so much. I think about her and it's going to make me cry. She was a long time ago. This was 15 years ago. And I still think about her, rodeo queen. Um, and she was just depressed and in a lot of pain. I think she had physical back pain and I forget where else. I think it was her shoulder. So it was affecting her ability to ride, and she was a rider and horse rider, um, and she was pissed. I mean, she was like frustrated in every area of her life. She was pissed at her partner. I'll leave him. Um, but never does. It's like a long relationship, but she's always pissed. She hated to admit that she would snap at her daughter a lot and she didn't know why. And she said, Sandy, if you tell me I have to do smoothies and salad, I'm just gonna fucking tell you why. She was like, fuck you. Like,
Right.
I'm doing it. And I was like, that's awesome because I'm not gonna tell you to eat salad and smoothies. I don't need just salad and smoothies. I am not the food police, right? I think I even used to write articles about stop. I'm not the food police. Like I'm eat like a goddess. I'm the chef. Like not restrictive. Eat more. So anyway, so I flip it on its head, right? So I said, I'm not going to tell you that. And she reminded me every session. Look, is this going to be the smoothie and salad session? Because I'm not doing it. And anyway, so what did we do? We just did, the work of, yes, I use the word clearing. I know it sounds confusing, but tapping and clearing, all this stuff she had no idea, none at all that she wanted to work on or that was even there. And she's having all this emotional release and profound shifts after each session till one day, about 4 weeks in, I usually work with people it used to be about 6 months sometimes, but mostly 3 months. And 1 month in, she said, oh my God, I forgot to tell you that they forget to tell me. They don't even care anymore. Like it's never about the food. Nobody cares about it. Once you're done, you're like, it's not about the food. But it starts with, oh, I can't stop eating. Anyway, her issue was fast food. She would not cook. She doesn't like vegetables. And she said, Sandy, I gotta stop going through the fast food. I cannot stop. Like every single day is fast food. All right. So at 1 month in, she tells me, you're not gonna believe this. I went to the grocery store today. I didn't tell her, I didn't give her a meal plan. She knows what she needs to eat. And she said, and guess what I bought? I said, what? She said, I bought raw spinach. And she told me all these vegetables. She said, I made a giant salad. And I said, really? And she said, I was craving it so much. I just want salad, Sandy. I was like, you're the one who told me you didn't want salads. You can eat anything you can eat. And she goes, no, I just want salad. Now, this is the thing. This is what's fascinating. Her body was telling her what to do because coming off fast food, she needed a cleanse. Now, my other clients are already cleansing. If they go on to salad, that's the opposite. They need protein. I tell them to eat animal foods, right? I'm like, you need more animal food. You need to eat protein and purpose. But we're all different. When I came off of being vegan, I hate to say this, I don't eat bacon anymore usually. But and I'm not going to even talk about pork. I just don't eat pork. But um, but uh, I eat bacon every day. Sh- Being someone in the regenerative, farming and farm to table food movement, I was like, she's a friend, and I asked her, "Is this ever going to go away? Am I ever going to stop craving bacon?" Because I had never eaten animal fat. I hadn't had any animal fat in years. Literally, like I eat fish every now and then. But my body was like, "I need the fat," and, it took
Mhm.
the year exactly. It was a full year, and then I never needed it again. I mean, I just didn't crave it, like I was. So your
Yeah.
cravings sometimes are based on once you clear the emotional need for the food, your body will tell you, "Okay, you need to do this." It's like there's a book from way back called French Women Don't Get Fat, and she talks about that. That
Mm.
listen to your body, like, if you ate too much the night before, maybe the next day is different, but it's your body. Like, there's still some
Right.
basic principles that apply to all of us, but we're all in a different state, like an athlete, if you're out sweating, you're sweating out your minerals, you need more electro, we're all different. Um,
Well, I tell you one of the things too, it's funny because like my wife, she'll I guess it was whenever we were in Europe earlier this year and we are more in the Central to Eastern Europe during we were in Prague and Austria and Salzburg, where
oh,
not
nice.
many big salads over there, right? It was all this like real like savory, heavy meals. And my wife, after a while, was like, I am just so craving a salad.
Yeah.
I want a salad.
Yeah.
And that brings up a very good point, Sandy, in that when it comes to this food addiction or whatever the case may be, if we will slow down.
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, the coping mechanism of using food,
Yeah.
busyness,
Yeah, right, right.
whatever it is.
Is a lot of people like this morning is a great example. So I usually will fast till around noon to 1 o'clock. I say fast. I just don't start eating until that time. But this morning, I was I was hungry at around 11, which was a little earlier than I wanted to eat something. But you know what? I listened to my body. I wasn't eating for pleasure. I wasn't eating. I had not eaten since last night around 6:25. And so I could just calculate, okay, so look, by waiting another half an hour, there is diminishing returns on it. There's no benefit. I'm eating, it's okay to go ahead at 15 hours and 33 minutes and have a protein bar because my body needs it. It's saying you're hungry, it's real, it's not. But then there are those other instances where I know that I'm eating for some completely different reason, even if it's just a hedonistic pleasure. I'm just stuffing my face because I like the texture or whatever. And I may make the decision to go ahead, but nevertheless, all that to say is if we can learn to tap into listening to our body, I think that makes this process a lot better. Now, you may have to deal with, and I think, and what I hear you saying, going back to where this all started, going to the party and not even craving the sweets, is because once you've removed all of the emotional baggage that the food is the kind of salve for, then maybe all you're left with is I may want that donut or that cookie or whatever, but it's just because I just want the damn thing. It looks good and tasty, which is a lot easier to overcome than that is somehow tied to some subconscious means of survival or easing of pain,
Yeah.
which is I
Yeah.
gotta believe is much more powerful.
Oh, yeah, and then that second piece that we talked about, that the ancestral, yeah, the recover, I call it, look, after many, many years of dieting and addictive habits, people have a lot of deficiencies, and we all have deficiencies
Mhm.
anyway in this culture, but you have a lot of gaps usually, or some gaps that we definitely wanna
Mhm.
heal. So when you heal the ancestral, like, you're eating what your body needs in general, the 80-20 rule, you don't have to be perfect. Perfection's a lie, that's dangerous, but basically speaking, you're eating, in a way you need to, for your needs. You don't really food isn't like that anymore, It's just
Yep.
it's just not like that. And then because the food supply has changed so much, There's so much high fructose corn syrup, and it doesn't taste good anymore. Like I joked on my website that I love Twizzlers, but I don't anymore because they don't even they taste like a chemical, you know.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, that doesn't work, and the more whole natural foods you eat, it doesn't have processing or chemicals or whatever, the less you like the taste you're gonna notice the taste of the processing in foods and the chemicals, and it just takes time. Now that just takes time, and that can take over 6 months to a year, and that's a
Mhm.
really cool process to witness because you heal a whole family.
Yeah.
When we work with the woman, I mean, usually, not always,
Mhm.
but she's kind of the core of the family for the food and
Mhm.
so, not always, of course, and I'm not stereotyping, but it does seem to be this way. And then the kids are healthier, the husband's healthier, and everyone's healthier when she heals herself and the patterns aren't repeated, you know. I don't think it's genetic when they come down with something. It's patterns of eating and we have this chance in childhood, we're creating our brain chemistry and not just the brain
Yeah.
chemistry, but we're developing. So it's
Right.
important. It's really important. And yeah, I see a whole family heal. I've seen it many times. Many times. They all had so many list of ailments, and they don't a year down the road. They don't have any of them because a lot of it
Right.
just based on the nutrition. Really
Well,
cool.
and that's one of the things we talk about a lot, my, business partner and I, and this is not a shameless plug. I'm just
Yeah.
we
Yeah, yeah.
founded a nutraceutical company called, Authentic Health, and my business partner, Gus Vickery, he's been a physician for over 30 years in family practice, and essentially what he does, like, people come in and they'll wanna know, "What should I take? What supplements?" He's like, "I have no idea. Let's do your blood work
Ah,
and what you said earlier, let's
yeah.
find those deficiencies at the cellular level
Yep.
and let's target those and let's first target them with nutrition. If you will do the work and you will eat more of the whatever the your deficiency is, eat more of the foods that are rich in this, then we're gonna do follow-up." And what he did was he created our foundational stack just because the environment we live in right now with the water, the air, and the food being so nutritionally deficit, unless you're buying all farm to table, all organic, regenerative,
And
which
even
most
then,
people are
you
not.
still have to replenish the soils. They're still working with the soils.
Exactly.
So you don't know, like, there's regions that are better, farms that are
Hmm.
it depends, but we're all dealing with the same stuff, and yeah, I really wanna look into that. I looked at what you were doing. I'd love to talk to you about that more. Um,
Yeah. That'd be a good conversation for us to get
or
into,
fun.
like have Gus on us. All chew the fat on that because
So
it's
fun.
really you know, as I started learning more about that's where I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I had no idea that we could have nutritional hunger where again,
Oh,
it could
totally.
be because you're
Totally.
craving calories,
Huh,
but it's also just you need yeah. I didn't know those
totally.
things.
Yeah.
And right now, I say this all the time, Sandy, the 10-cent calorie is a modern marvel. It's wonderful. I mean, people the fact that we have such an abundance of tasty foods, but as everything else, it comes with at a cost. It's a double-edged sword that there's so much food, so many calories readily available. They're tasty. You can gum it. You don't even have to have good teeth and you can eat it. It's crazy, which is for the survival of the species, we'd think, oh, that's wonderful. But you have to be
Survival of
prepared
corporation.
again. You're
I
right.
mean, the survival of corporations and, look, I mean, what's happening that makes me really sad, and this is why, I mean, the passion I had for food and eating, and we don't know how to cook anymore, and so,
Oh, agree.
ah, it's like a tragedy, and we don't wanna cook, okay? And s
Right.
people are like, "Bleh," and so I'm like, "Oh, just" I had a cooking class, my first one was, play with your food, like, just ruin it, just play with it, just make a mess.
Yeah.
But learn one thing. If you learn one thing a month that you love, not that anybody
Yeah.
else loves, that you and your family will eat and you can play with, that it's a whole just real food of some kind, and I throw out all kinds of ideas. Um, just start cooking again. It starts to really get it's like any habit, you start to love it if you can start to love it, and of course, the tapping, we help with all that, and one of my clients is doing that now, and she hated it. But she's starting to love it, which is gonna change
Mhm.
her whole life and her kids' lives from being unhealthy for the rest of their lives. And it's so profound a shift, Anyway, so Uh,
Well, can I just say,
learning
can I just add on to that too?
Yeah,
About the cooking, and one of the things too, I'm gonna put a plug in for my youngest daughter. She has an Instagram account called the Cast Iron Corner.
nice.
So,
Hey,
please follow it. So, Abby, my youngest
wow.
daughter, who is a total foodie, incredible cook. She was actually when she went to CU Boulder, and she was actually a private chef as one of the ways to earn money in college. She's in Manhattan now, and she's still has the dream of one day possibly going back to culinary school. But and she's also a type 1 diabetic. So she has to eat good foods. But when Abby really started getting into cooking and then that made it to where around here, and this is for the audience, what Sandy's saying, I can testify to this. If you start cooking more and then you take it a step further by making your own sauces, salad dressings, and that
Yep,
sort of thing,
right.
then
That's right.
you will be so opposed to buying anything off a store shelf and
Yep,
putting it on your side because you start to realize this
yep,
it's just gross.
yep.
It's just you just don't want to put that stuff in your body. And then like for me, I'll speak for myself. I'm not overboard. I'm not one of these people. I do believe that the poison is in the dose. So please, audience, don't take this as I'm saying that all sugar kills,
Right,
and
no, no,
if you eat a Twinkie, you're gonna
no,
die.
no,
No,
yeah, do that, yeah.
but what you start to realize is that there is a compounding effect. And if you decide that you're going to start eating Twinkies every night before bed after dinner, there is a compounding effect. Eventually, those toxins and the processed nature of the food, it will build up and you're going to start having inflammation. Your body's going to start signaling, hey, this is not good by aches and pains and indigestion. And whenever you go the other direction, and you start eating whole foods all the time, then to your point,
Yeah,
it makes it so much easier to eat the good stuff and say no to the bad because you just begin like, I don't want to put that in my body. I know what it
it
does.
just doesn't taste
Again,
good anymore, you know what I mean?
no,
Once
it
you fill
doesn't.
those nutrient deficits and the emotional healing, it just doesn't taste good, it's really simple. I don't, "Oh my gosh, I have to avoid it." I just don't want it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that
Yeah.
simple. It really becomes like you don't want it. I mean, you just don't even see that it's there. It's like, I mean, I used to joke that ice cream sat in my freezer and got freezer burn, you know, like, because I didn't remember it was there. And, of course, now, I've changed. I'm at a new era in life where suddenly I enjoy ice cream, but I buy Strauss. I love Strauss. But I enjoy it on occasion. I don't ca it's healthy. It's a really
Same.
good product, you know, and
Yeah.
you can make your own with whole raw cream and honey, and, like, you can just make this killer with berries, and it's not bad for you, right? So we've demonized food in our culture because we're so extreme. The Western culture
Exactly.
is we're so black and white. It's like we're all
Hmm.
addicts, you know? We're all like,
Hmm.
ugh. I have European friends who are
Yeah.
like, you Americans with your extremes, like, you know, you want to enjoy your life. And
Yeah.
it's a shame that our FDA is so corrupt. I mean, it really is. They allow things to go through. We should never have to read labels. You know, look at Food Babe. She's doing what we've all been doing in the nutrition world, you know, posting.
Uh,
Yeah, we shouldn't have to look at a label. It should be illegal to put how many thousands of, milligrams of sodium and like the chemicals and the red dye and the blah, blah. Who needs to read that label? I mean, in Europe, you don't read the label. It says that, you know, the GMOs and this. Anyway, so you shouldn't have to, but we do because that's what's
right.
happening. And, filtered water changes your life if you get good spring water and or distilled or whatever you enjoy. But these things matter here. And
Mm.
so, and sleep matters here because most people are sleep deprived. So, really simple steps that we take. And then you don't have to be, um, uh, I'm going to say it, food neurotic, you know, where like
Mhm.
you just buy real food and cook it, you know, and you love it. Like, I love a damn good tomato. You know, like, I just love a good
Yeah.
tomato. Like, I can get so excited about something in season, you know, or like region
Oh yeah.
Hawaii. First thing I do, I go to a grocery store and I'm like, I feel like crying. I can even, the fresh caught fish and the whatever. I just pull whatever's there. I don't care. And then,
Yeah.
whatever's in season usually turns me on. So, cause it's alive, and I buy from small farmers and anyone can do that, by the way. I hope people know that there's all these meat delivery services now, and I have vetted many of them,
Yeah.
the small farms they use. So many of them are very, very good. Um, so there's ways.
That's one of the things
I'm
That's one of the things I'm excited about now is that like a lot of the big meat packers are not monopolizing all of the animal protein anymore. I mean, they're making like it's fortunate that a lot of the small producers, they went through a phase there where they thought we're going to go out of business. And but then all of a sudden now what they're realizing is the direct to consumer uh uh logistics for the small independent beef farmers, bison, poultry. It's out there if
right,
you're willing to look.
right.
And you're right. There's a lot of, Thrive does a pretty good job on their
Yeah,
marketplace
fried's
for
great.
vetting everybody that they use. And if you will just take that extra step, and a lot of people think that if they're going to do that to eat the non-GMO and all organic, all this stuff, that, well, I just don't have that much money. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to sell you something, but I'm not. I have no interest in any of it.
Not a
I
huge
don't own stock in Thrive or anything like that. I'm not on their board.
right.
But anything like that, when you compare paying however many much percent more for organic or whole foods versus what it's going to cost you, I think 5 weeks of late stage cancer treatment, when you do that math versus what you would have spent, and I'm not saying that if you eat all organic, you're never going to eat cancer. I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on the interwebs.
You won't.
But if you
You won't.
the whole idea of an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure, it's there, and that
And
your
I gotta
food
tell you
can make
something.
such an impact.
You wanna hear something cool? I had a client once, and I have the info somewhere. It's in a hard drive somewhere back before the cloud, who was an accountant, and she did the math for a group I was doing because she's like, "No, Sandy, it's cheaper. It's cheaper the way I'm eating now." And and she ate like a quote normal person who just ate out of a
Mhm.
boxes and stuff, didn't cook for herself. And she said, "This is how much I was actually spending on all the crap." It was actually more expensive because you don't eat a lot. You
You
don't eat
don't
a
eat
lot
as
of
much.
fruit
I
when you eat whole food. Like,
agree.
I had
Yep.
broccoli last night, a thing of broccoli. I mean, I'm in a broccoli phase. Like, I have phases where I like some fruit, you listen to your body. So I'm eating all this broccoli. I ate broccoli and I roasted some chicken and that's what I wanted to eat.
Yep.
And I had too many potatoes last night, so I didn't have any tonight. Like, I don't not eat starch. I just moderate. I just listen to my body. My body was like, I don't want it tonight. This is too much. I just wanted the greens it doesn't how much am I eating? Nothing. I have smoothies in summer. I eat a lot of smoothies because it's so hot. In winter, I do bowls for breakfast. It,
Mhm.
it doesn't
Mhm.
cost anything. I'm not eating tons of food. There's nothing in my cupboard. You know what I mean? Like it's just brown rice, all these varietals of brown rice because I love black rice, red rice,
Mhm.
and quinoa and I do eat like that. I love eating like that. I love white rice. I eat white rice. But I make it and then I freeze it. It doesn't cost anything
Yeah.
at all.
No, no, you're right. That's one of the things that I've talked about too on the show is that when you're eating well, when you eat the right things, like I'm 6'2", weigh between 200 205 at any given time, about 10% body fat, work out twice a day, have a very active life. And Sandy, if I eat more than 2,500 calories a day, it's a lot. That's a lot, and I don't starve myself. I don't go hungry. But to your point earlier, that's another thing that I think that if we could, one, if you eat the right things, you won't be as hungry,
Not as hungry.
and two, people need to get used to the fact that being a little hungry is not a bad thing. You're not starving. It's okay. I think that's something we've been conditioned to believe that if I'm hungry, I must eat right then, as opposed to no, during the hunger phase, don't ever starve yourself. I would never suggest that.
Right. And
But
in our
hunger,
culture,
learn to manage your hunger,
a lot of
right?
people I meant to say this earlier was fascinating. I'm sure you know this, and I don't know if our listeners know this, maybe they do. A lot of our hunger signals are actually mis- thirst signals are mistaken for hunger
Oh, for sure.
because we're all dehydrated, but we're dehydrated for reasons that not just water, but mineral imbalance.
Yep.
And another reason, saturated fats are really key for hydration, moving the lymph. And anyway, it's very fascinating. So hydration is this whole issue, and
Right.
I can't tell you how many of my clients don't drink. They really don't drink water.
I
Men
know.
especially, but the women too,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Wow, let's just get you drinking some mineralized water, filtered water if I can get you to do it, and, the good filtered water, and you're gonna crave the good water." Our bodies don't want that
Yeah.
crappy water. My dog will just reject. That's how I know water's good when I get the spring waters. She'll reject it or she'll be like, "Oh," you know, the animals know.
Yeah,
They know.
for sure.
Animals
For sure.
teach you everything you need to know. You can learn everything about a field watching a horse. Anyway, another story.
Well, yeah,
So
I
broke
saw in
down
your
talk
bio.
that yeah.
Well, I saw on your website. Sometime we'll have to have you back on. I want to know how you talk to horses
I
and how they
love
talk
it.
back.
Um, but yeah, so thirst, is sometimes that hunger you feel. And sometimes you're right. It's just a habit. Like at night, we're like, what am I doing? Nighttime is when things get wonky for a lot of
Oh yeah,
people in our culture. And I think that's interesting. I think that's an
yeah,
interesting phenomenon. Um, so that hunger at night, what is that? Is it restlessness? Is it what is that? So that's another thing to explore, but it can also be the thirst that we're thirsty.
yeah. Well, well, Sandy, this has been a blast. And here's what I've
Fun
learned is,
talking.
and I think it's so important. I think if we just were to take the kind of brief on this, is that for those people out there who are struggling with weight loss or anything else, if you just try to go cold turkey, if you're just relying on willpower, if you're just doing the same old, there's most likely an emotional subconscious element to this that someone like Sandy can help you tap into so that then, and this is my words, not yours. I would think that if you can get rid of that emotional baggage or whatever that root is, whatever is setting under that iceberg, and then you start going into the nutrition, the movement, all that, it's got to be a lot easier than trying to do all of the other stuff, the quote unquote healthy stuff without dealing with the emotional stuff on the front end or at some point. It seems like it's a lot more efficient to just
Oh,
and holistic
suddenly
to
it
knock
starts
it all
working.
out.
Everything you spent all that money on that wasn't working before because you
Yep.
couldn't implement it, it starts working because it works.
Yep.
Nutrition works and functional medicine works. But my clients, they're usually holistic. They'll come to me after working with everybody in all these programs. Be like, I can't, I just can't do it. And
Yeah.
and they've wasted all, but it's not a waste of money because we will implement it all. We'll make it
Yep.
work, because we will get that subconscious sabotage. I don't like the word sabotage. Your body's trying to protect you. Sabotage is protection. We'll get that, you know, worked out of the way, and you can implement. That's the goal. That one day you do it on your own. You don't need me, like the woman driving through the drive-through. I didn't tell her to do that. I mean, she knew she needed to eat different.
Yep.
And she's like, she just did it. She wanted to because she wasn't blocked anymore, right? With all that pain, she had a lot of pain and emotional pain and stuff,
Right.
and it was really
Well, and
weighing her down.
here's what I love about the time we're living in. Sandy, if I'd had you on this show as recently as 5 years ago, probably people like, oh God, who the heck is Jason talking to? This is like out now. I think people are a lot, yeah, right.
I
I
don't
think
know.
people are now.
I
I
don't
think
know.
that
I mean,
people are.
I feel like it's been very popular for a long time, but I guess it's still very kind of niched.
I think it's too niche. I was just talking to somebody about this before you came on, who is a longevity expert. We're talking about FDA regulation and some of the things that the FDA is holding us back on in that area. And I was like, I'm amazed how because I talk to people like you all the time. I stay in this kind of I don't like biohacker, but the biohacker health and wellness longevity bubble. And then you go to a social engagement and you really realize how ignorant to the agency that people have they are. And so I still think there's work to be done, but I love the fact that I think we are living in a time where people are finally waking up and realizing we don't have health care in our country. We have sick care. There's no incentive to keeping people healthy. It's going to take voices like yours and people like you that are going to shift that paradigm into, hey, why don't we try prevention? Why don't we try managing our bodies the way they were designed? And let's keep people healthy versus figuring out all these. And we do have some amazing ways to to help people live longer and heal people when they're sick. I'm not saying there's no space or room for that. Modern medicine is absolutely an incredible blessing and miracle, but the focus on prevention and actual taking that agency we all have and operating this complex miracle of a machine that we call a body the way it was designed, man, I think that goes a long way into getting us into a healthier
Absolutely.
state.
Absolutely. And my focus and what I have learned working with people this way is healing should be simple. It's God given.
Yeah.
It's unwinding. So illness is unwinding the complexities. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just letting go of all that complexity. Healing is simple. It happens naturally when we let go of everything in the way of it. Anything
Yeah.
we're doing this in the way of it, So, and it has to be from the inside out. For the people I work with, they're
For
struggling to
sure.
put it into action. They don't know why. They're like, I really want to do this and I can't do it. I just
Yeah.
can't make it
Yep.
happen. And that's a lot of people. And that's stress. That's what stress does, basically. And it's the hidden stress that really gets us, right? Just like
Oh
hidden,
yeah, for sure.
I know you know about it. It's like a hidden infection that's
Yeah.
slowly eroding your adrenal health, your stress hormones and your hormones. And those hidden infections are serious. And people have them typically in places they don't know. And it's the same thing with our emotional stress. It's like this hidden um, hole
For sure. For sure.
in our lives.
Well, Sandy, this has been a blast. How do people find you, keep up with you, and if they want to engage you, how do they get to you?
So the website is Sandy Zeldes. It's my name. I'll spell it. It's Sandy with a Y. Zeldes is a Z, Zeldes. It'll be in the link for the podcast, so they don't have to stress about that. Eat Like a Goddess is my other website. And then I'm putting together a page just for you for this podcast,
Oh
and it
wow.
will have a link to a course I wrote for DailyOM. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, for sure.
DailyOM. I wrote it. It was a bestseller for years, I'm proud to say.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a great course. They changed everything about the page, so it doesn't describe what the course is as much, but it's a great course. I love that course. Um, and I'll have a link for that. It's called Heal Subconscious Blocks to Weight Loss. And then we'll have a link for people who are just really excited and want to talk to me. There's an application for a discovery session. And then I'll have a link for more information and experience, a free audio tapping, actually. Because I know many people are new to it. It's kind of funny. I just put together a brief tapping just so you can experience it for just a minute and sit still and feel what it feels like. It's nothing complicated. It's just a nice free audio.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for being on the show. Like I said, I'm going to air this on both the Jason Wright Show and the Healthy CEO. I want to get this far and wide. Great conversation. You are welcome back anytime. So
Thank you
please
so
reach out.
much.
I'll probably do the same. I'd love to have you back. And
I'd love to.
that,
I'd love talking to you. It's fun, Jason. You seem very
awesome. Well,
aligned with exactly. We're both on the same page, and I really appreciate you. Yeah.
likewise. Thanks so much. And folks, she's Sandy. I'm Jason. We are out. Well, that does it for this episode of The Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.